back post. Taylor's in there as well, and Edwards! Rob Edwards, with just his second goal of the season, gives Exeter the lead.
Welcome to Kellow's Bootlaces. Kirky, we weren't missing for a couple of months there.
Time has flown, hasn't it?
Yeah, I don't know what happened there, but
production problems.
Production problems. Yeah, couldn't get a producer. Anyway, we've caught up with you just before you go off on your summer holidays.
Yep.
The season is over, Kirky. We finished. Didn't really go according to plan. The end of the season, did it? As we hoped it would go.
Only 6 league positions out. I think I went third. I think you did as well, actually.
Yeah.
Where did we finish? 9th.
Yeah.
All fell away a little bit, didn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, we just. I mean, it's fine margins football, isn't it? It's absolutely fine margins. One more goal.
One more goal in that game. Yeah, one more goal.
But anyway,
who wants to go to Wembley anyway?
None of us wanted to go to Wembley, so that's fine. Anyway, we thought we'd have a season review, and we thought we'd do it in the format of the round the table. One of the things that we did earlier in the season. So let's make our way up to the boardroom and look back at Matt Taylor's first season in charge of Exeter City. Well, welcome to our second Kellow's Bootlaces round the table. A bit more of an end of season review, obviously, this evening. We're joined again by Andrew Barge, who does co-commentary for BBC Radio Devon. Obviously, Kirky's back as well, and we've got a couple of new faces this time. Firstly, Matthew Bamsey, the region's premier journo, who represents the Sunday Independent on match days here at the park. Thanks for coming, Matt.
Pleasure.
And to my right, we have Pat Baldwin, who wore the red and white with pride and passion, Pat, didn't you? Uncompromising central defender. I believe he joined us on loan from Southend back in 2012 and then signed for us at the end of that season and was here for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, 3 years I think in the end.
Scored 1 goal.
It's prolific.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So thanks for coming, Pat. Really appreciate it. And I think you do a bit of work for Radio Devon as well on the commentary.
I do occasionally, yeah, when my wife allows me, yeah.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Right, so the season's finished. I guess if we're all honest, we're probably a little bit disappointed of how it petered out in the end. We were so close to the playoffs. Certainly Matt Taylor was gutted, Kirky, wasn't he, at Forest Green Rovers, because we just needed 1 goal in the end, didn't we?
Well, it wasn't going to come, was it?
No, it was a tough afternoon really to watch as a supporter. But just I'll start with you, Pat, if I may. Your overall impressions on the season. Firstly, a maiden season for Matt as well.
I've been really impressed with Matt. I think he comes across really well in interviews. I like what I hear from other players I've spoken to. He's the kind of manager that you'd like to play for. I think it was always going to be a difficult season taking over from Tiz, and I think he's conducted himself really well. It's disappointing, obviously, from a fan's point of view because you've been up there in the playoffs. But I think if at the start of the season, that first transition, that huge transition season that it was always going to be after Tiz, I think they've done really well. Mm-hmm. I think the big disappointment is that you made the playoffs, or sorry, you was in the playoffs for a long time and you didn't quite get there. I think that's a huge disappointment. Of course it is, but from a kind of neutral point of view that I am now, I would say it's been fairly successful.
And Bama, we've had some bad days at the park here, but overall I think we've seen some real quality attacking football this season, haven't we?
Yeah, and I'd echo what Pat said really. I mean, Matt coming in and replacing Tiz in the summer, it's not an easy task, but he came in, he got the players in that he wanted, and I think he's had a good solid season. Like we say, we're all disappointed we just missed out on the playoffs. We were desperate for those. But looking back, I think he'd be relatively pleased, consistent, good platform to build for next season, and he can really stamp his mark on the squad, bring some fresh faces in over the summer, and we go again. I'm quite excited to see what City will produce next season, but like Pat says, he's conducted himself brilliantly. He's comes across really well. He's a man that is passionate about the club. You can sense that in everything he does, and I think it's exciting times.
Bargy, we talked about this in our first round of the table, really, that we're a football club that will take a gamble on a young manager. We've done it before. Gamble's paid off, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with what the 2 guys have said already. And the other thing I would say is that he's brought the fans all together as well, which I think was a really big thing, because at the end of last season it was toxic. You're either in one camp or the other. Should he stay? Should he go? And it just wasn't a nice atmosphere around the club as well, which I think he's brought us all back together. Yeah, disappointing that we didn't make the playoffs, but I think all in all, it's been a good season, good first season for him, and certainly something to build on.
Kirky, we said we didn't want to go to Wembley. Well, we're not going to go to Wembley, are we?
We all sat, didn't we, when we did one of these and said we're going to finish third. And, ifs and buts and couldas, isn't it? Coulda, shoulda. Totally agree with what the guys are saying. I think the two things for me, one, what Bonzi's saying about the fans is absolutely right, because we'd gone past the point of no return. It was a big split, wasn't it? Like Bonzi says, two camps. And I think the refreshing thing for me is Matt's interviews. I mean, Pat alluded to it, but I don't think he's capable of putting a spin on it. Even when he's talking about the players, that maybe he's released, which we'll talk about later. But I really like, he's had to deal with so much. I think in his mind as well, like after Forest Green, he was probably a bit gutted. But now he's got a summer, to think about things. And for the first time in 3 years, the club can really plan properly. I think the final is 2 or 3 weeks' time, isn't it? So at least he knows now to prepare for a team in League Two. Whereas I think you get to the 28th of May or whatever, and you're thinking, what league are we going to be in? And then you've got not much time for pre-season because it's the middle of June or whatever. So I think when he looks back on it, he won't be too disappointed, actually, because of the fact he's got time now to shape his ideas and his squad for next year.
And it was last year this time, or just a little bit later, that he first realised he's got the job. This year, he'll have been planning next season for the last 3 or 4 months, I guess, as well, wouldn't he? Because he'll know who he potentially was going to let go, or who was signing or who wasn't. Pat, from a player's point of view, I guess the summer's always unsettling at a football club, because you've got players go in, teammates go in, you've got new players coming in that might be vying for your position as well. But how difficult is it for the players when a new manager comes in as well?
Of course, it's difficult. If you're under contract, it makes it easier because you've got a chance to then go and impress. When you're out of contract, that's a totally different situation. It's a stressful time. But from a player's point of view, after this season, I think, like Kirky said, that he's got time to build and come up with some ideas. And from a player's point of view, if you're under contract to this football club, you'd be looking forward to next season. Because the club's in a healthy position, very healthy position, and it'd be interesting to see what players he brings in. It's an exciting time. I think it's an exciting time for a player at this football club. If you're under contract, I think it's a great time to be a part of the club.
It's always good to look back, and I guess Matt will spend a couple of weeks analysing and looking over the season as well. Barge, is there a particular highlight that stands out for you this season?
MK Dons.
I thought you might say that.
I think we were all just waiting for that game to come, weren't we? Just soon after Christmas and New Year, and we just came out of the blocks that day. That's one of my criticisms, and not just of Matt Taylor, but of the team and the way they've set themselves up in the last sort of 4 or 5 years. Is that I think sometimes we just haven't started the games quickly enough and haven't really got the fans behind us and got a good momentum behind us in games. But that afternoon, we were right at it right from the first get-go, and we didn't stop all afternoon, and it was just a perfect result and a great performance. So, an easy highlight for me.
Bamo, for you?
I remember the Notts County game was at 5-1, wasn't it, here at the park, and that was a great afternoon. We didn't realise at the time that Notts County were going to struggle quite like they did. I mean, they were favourites for the title, weren't they, at the start of the year? I'm shocked to see them go down. But I remember that game. I'm with Bargy on the MK Dons. That was the hype and the build up to that game was quite intense, wasn't it? And Tiz coming back, and then that was a great performance that day, wasn't it? To sweep MK Dons aside, who ended up going up. So there's been quite a few highlights. I agree, we've lost too many games at home, haven't we? I think 8 at home. It's too many, isn't it? To be up there challenging for the top 3. Look at the sides in the automatic promotion places. I don't think any of them have lost more than 4 or 5 games, and we've lost 8, so that's too many. And maybe next season, just getting faster starts to games, really, getting those fans really behind you, and that builds the atmosphere, doesn't it? But yeah, it's been some good afternoons here.
Good.
Looking back.
And Kirky, probably a memory for you from perhaps away travels?
Well, I've got to. Before I talk about away travels, can we talk about the MK Dons game? Because one particular moment for me, the third goal, was just comedy gold, wasn't it? And it's just like centre half back to the keeper, and Nicky Law runs it. So the whole thing, but that particular goal was fantastic. I think in terms of away games, two memories for me. One is Notts County away. We're down to 10 men, we're playing without a striker because Ryan gets sent off, and then we nick it with the last kick of the game when Donovan Wilson puts in a ball that Nicky Law gets in off his shoulder, I think. But I think as well, probably my favourite away moment was, I think, New Year's Day, We all thought Jayden was going to go in January. I didn't really expect him to go as early as he did in January. So I sat at Swindon thinking this is not going to be a good day. And then Archie Collins pings one in with his right foot, swerving, absolutely fizzed it right across the keeper. The only thing wrong with it was his celebration because he went straight to the wrong side of the pitch than the City fans. But my favourite moment, I think, would be Archie Collins at Swindon. An absolute perler.
Can't argue with that, I suppose. And Pat, I'll ask you a slightly different question because it's good to get your view. What was your favourite memory wearing the City shirt?
Favourite memory wearing? Oh, wow. I wasn't expecting that. It'd probably have to be... Do you know what? It's a weird memory, but my first reserve game back after my knee injury. My son was really young. It was the first game my son came to watch us play. He was only a kid, but for that, just for me personally, I worked really hard to get back. And having him here, I think him and my wife were the only people in the stand watching. But for me, that was just such a big occasion. But on a match day, it'd have to be my goal at Rochdale. It was. I thought it was offside. I'm not going to lie.
Is that why you had to celebrate?
I nonchalantly just got my toe on it, and it went through the keeper's legs, and I went away thinking, it's offside, but it stood, and I think it was a really bad celebration.
It was not good a celebration.
I can't even remember. But
Been living off the goal bonus ever since.
Yeah, I have.
My favourite Pat Baldwin memory in a City shirt is, I think, when we beat the Argyle 3-1 down here, and I think Scott Bennett got the third, and I've never seen you run up to celebrate a goal and you thought it's the 92nd minute or whatever. I just remember
I don't need to recover and run back.
exactly. And I think we beat them 3-1 that day.
Yeah, that was a great atmosphere. That was a really good atmosphere.
And don't ever think it was just your wife and your son here watching. Kirky would have been
Yeah,
here
I'd have
watching
been there.
somewhere, mate. I can assure you.
I can't remember. I just barely remember yesterday.
Let's. We've mentioned we lost too many games at home, which was one of our problems. What was a low point for you, Kirky, in the season?
Oh, do you know, I think actually there's been a few low points. I think actually it's a game I wasn't at. It was the Macclesfield away game when we had our game in hand, and Christie got sent off the week before. Hammy's in goal, and I think we might have gone 1-0 up, 1-1, 2-1 up, and just I think at full time losing 3-2 to Macclesfield, and then realising they'd done the double over us, taking 6 points, and that's because I think every football fan looks at the table with a game in hand, thinking where they would be, and I think that Macclesfield game, I suddenly really had doubts that actually this is going to be a bit tougher. So I think that was probably my low point.
Bargy?
I got two. One I was at and one I wasn't at. Lincoln away, when we very nearly took all the points. And there was a late equaliser. And then game over Christmas here against Grimsby. Something like 31 shots to 4.
Insane.
Yeah, it was a weird and wonderful game in many ways.
I mean, it was a brilliant game to watch and to commentate. It was great, there was so much to talk about. But it was just so frustrating. And at the end, I was really low then because obviously we'd lost the game and we just absolutely battered them all afternoon.
I think we got back to 1-1, didn't we, in that game? And then straight from the kick-off, Dara puts
2-1 it was.
Dara puts his hand on someone and gives away a penalty.
Yeah.
Works so hard.
Yeah.
Bama?
I've got two actually that stick.
Everyone's got two.
Everyone's got two.
Yeah, the home game here against Macclesfield was a Tuesday night. Sol Campbell had just been
turned up,
and all the talk and focus was on him. I think he went into the changing room and gave a team talk by all account. It was a dreadful game. Ended up losing that 1-0. Should never have lost that game. But I was convinced we'd get in the playoffs. To be honest, spoke to these guys about it, and I thought we would steal a playoff spot. But it was that home game against Crawley. And that's when I had my doubts then, really. That was a good opportunity to sort of nail that last playoff spot. We lost that game and we had a hard run in, didn't we? We had to go to Stevenage, I think, after that. It wasn't an easy run in. I know we beat Oldham, but we needed something at Forest Green. So those two home games, I think, came back to haunt us in the end.
And Macclesfield, Pat, I don't think they got out of the bottom three all season, did they? And we lost to them home and away. So I guess that tells you that if you're not going to win those kind of games, you're going to come up just a little bit short, aren't you?
Absolutely. I think the old cliche that the table doesn't lie. I just think it was midway through the season where I just felt as though that Exeter had too many injuries at the wrong time to big players like Troy Brown. I think he was a huge loss, although Shea came and did superbly well. I think Boateng, when he got injured during that period of time, I just felt that he he was a huge loss, and it was around about that time I just felt that they were missing something, Exeter, that I never really felt that they were going to quite make it into, or you weren't going to quite make it into the playoffs. But that's just part of football. You're not missing much. I think 1 or 2 additions, a goal scorer was going to help. Stockley was a huge loss as well. And like I said, I commented on 1 or 2 games that Exeter just weren't good enough on the day. And like you said, if you're not performing, if you're not winning, relatively easy, what should be relatively easy games, if you're not winning those, then you'll end up where you end up, and that's what's happened.
I think that's a great point about losing Jaden after Christmas. I mean, 16 goals, wasn't it, in the first half of the season, and it's so hard to replace. Ryan came in and did well towards the end of the season, but it was always going to take him time, wasn't it, to adapt. It was a massive blow, wasn't it, out of Matt's hands.
Yeah, I
really,
think that was my biggest low point. I think came in the final game, because we needed 1 goal, and it suddenly dawned on me that offensively we just short a little bit, aren't we? And it's easy to say, I guess, if Stockley had stayed, we'd have made the playoffs. You can't really say that, but on the other side, I'm convinced that the shift that Ryan Bowman put in, especially towards the end of the goal season, he was on fire a bit, wasn't he?
Yeah, no.
He'd settled into the club. He'd started to, I think, become a little bit more selfish, because he was more of a team player doing a job for the team for certainly a lot of his early games, and then he suddenly started scoring goals. So hopefully that bodes well for next season.
Yeah, he's impressed me actually since he's come into the club. Okay, it took him a while to get his first goal, but you just wished he'd got a couple of goals a bit earlier on, a couple of weeks more earlier, and it might have made all the difference. But I think he's impressed. I think fans have taken to him.
Yeah.
He certainly puts in a good shift every game, doesn't he? Even if it's not going for him, and the fans are always going to love that anyway, wherever you're playing. So no, I'm expecting a good season from him next season, now that he's fully settled into the club and the city as well. Because it's let's not forget, he's come down from Scotland as well. So it's a huge move, isn't it?
I think coming in and replacing a player like Stockley as he did was always going to be tough. He's not. If you look at his career stats, he's not an out-and-out goal scorer. What he does bring is that honesty, which Exeter City fans, that's the first thing that you want to see in a player, is that honesty and that hard work. He gives you that. But like I said, it was always going to be difficult for him coming in, because they're not similar players, they're completely different players. So I think that they brought him in because he's a great addition to the squad. But I think Matt Taylor knew that he would have to have adjusted the way that they played, and hoping that you'd get goals in other areas. And I think that made a difference. That hasn't quite happened. So like I said, I really like him. I think he works really hard, and like you said, adding a few goals. He's not going to be prolific for you, but
gives you something defensively as well, doesn't he?
Absolutely. I really like from the first game. You could see what he could bring to the club, and I think with an addition, a decent player alongside him, maybe could make a huge difference.
I really like him. I think he's got a great touch, brilliant touch, probably better touch than Jaden actually, and he will run channels and get. I felt really sorry for him at Forest Green, because he had that great chance, didn't he? And you're thinking, the fans are going to judge on missing that chance, but. He's got some goals. I think the other thing as well is, a lot of his goals have come from Lee Martin, from crosses coming in there. There's not been too many other people, and also he doesn't really know who his main partner is, because Matt Jay's been in and out, Donovan Wilson's been in and out, Lee Martin's played up front with him. So I think the way that he's finished the season strongly, that bodes well for next year.
Well, one player that did hit the ground running right from the off was, of course, Nicky Law, and he certainly mopped up at the end of season awards. Kirky, have we ever had a player in his first season be so consistent for the whole season?
It's probably not actually. I remember I was away for the first game of the season, and it's like, you normally sit on the fence about a player, don't you? You still haven't decided about David Noble, whether he's a good player. And jury's out on this one. But you sent me a text saying, Nicky Law, what a player. And I think we beat Carlisle 3-1, and he scored, and you were so impressed with him.
3 debutants scored that day, didn't they?
Yeah, so. Tristan as well, wasn't it, and John Thorpe. So he's been just phenomenal, isn't he? Whenever we've needed a goal, he's popped up. What a signing he's been. And I think, age is on his side, isn't he? He's early 30s, I think. So just so consistent. Double figures in his first season. So I can't remember too many that have got that kind of level of goals in their first season, settled in straight away.
And a player that the Bradford fans were all saying he just sits in the middle of the park and doesn't do very much, sort of more of a defensive midfielder, just plays an easy pass. So I wasn't expecting anything like we saw from him, but he's been absolutely brilliant.
I was amazed that Bradford let him go. I mean, you look at his performances
his CV
this
is
season.
so impressive.
he's fantastic, isn't he? The way he glides across the pitch, it's great touch. He creates space. He brings others into play. He's got a bit of everything. Scores goals, 10 this season.
I think credit also. Sorry, Matt. Just credit to Matt Taylor as well. Because I've been saying, why is he playing on the left side midfield all season? You know, he's a central midfielder. That's his best position. But no, he's put him out on the left-hand side because he knows that he can do that, and he doesn't have all that marking, doesn't have that kind of responsibility in the centre of the park. He's just free to do his game, to do what he wants to do, and get forward. And I mean, he's just brilliant, and he seems to get stronger throughout the game as well. You know, so many times in the 80, 85 minutes, you see him bursting into the opposition penalty area, getting in on the end of things, and you think, where the hell's he got that energy from?
It's like the winner at Notts County. You kind of think, what's he doing up there in the 95th minute? And
so I think credit to Matt Taylor as well, and sort of allowing him to have that freedom on the left as well to do that.
He must be a player's dream to play with, because you know you can just give him the ball and he's never going to waste it. He very rarely loses possession, doesn't he? He can pick out the pass, and like we've all said, he scored so many important goals for us as well.
Yeah, he is a good player, very good player. I think going back to what you said, Matt, about you can't believe that Bradford let him go. All it takes is one manager to put you in the wrong position, not really realise what potential you have. And I think Nicky Law is fantastic, like you said, and in ghosting in from the box late runs. His time the runs into the box, a bit like Frank Lampard. You can't coach that. You've just naturally got that in you, and Nicky Law, I think, has that. And I think, like you said, credit has to go to the management and the coaching staff to giving him, putting him in the formation and using the tactics to allow him to go and use his strengths. And I think that's what's happened this year. He's, fitting into, by all accounts, a really good dressing room as well. That makes a difference. Up at Bradford, he just might not have enjoyed living up there or enjoyed the changing room. You just don't know what goes on, but he's fitted in here superbly well.
He's obviously dominated things this season, but there are other players in the squad, and we asked the same question in our first round the table. And Bargie, you said Jonathan Fort stood out for you. Do you stand by that?
Probably not in the second half of the season, to be fair. But that's a bit harsh on Jonathan, though, isn't it? Really, I mean, his poor lad's been injured ever since. So, but no, he did stand out for me, and I suppose he was playing up alongside Jayden as well. I think they worked really well as a partnership, but second half of the season has clearly been difficult for him, and a frustration, and I guess a frustration for Matt as well. I always felt that we were possibly a striker short in the squad anyway, all season, even before Jayden went. And when we found out that Jonathan wasn't training and was only really out for sort of 10-15 minutes of a game, that's when I thought I really started to doubt whether we would have enough to get into the playoffs, and so it worked out that way.
Well, Kirky, you went for Lee Martin.
Stand by that.
Stand by that.
Yeah, Barge and I were talking about that off air. I just love Lee Martin. I just love the energy that he gives you, and I love the way he runs his fingers through his hair. It's just like.
Have we seen enough of him on the pitch then?
I think I've seen enough of him. He's got a certain swagger about him, hasn't he? And I think he knocks a great ball in. I'm really impressed with him. I think Barge and I were talking earlier. He did take time to settle in, whereas John Fort hit the ground running. And I think as the season went on, Lee Martin became a really important player for us. And so for me, he's been one of Matt's best signings probably when you look at it over the whole season.
Bamo, who stood out for you other than Nicky Law?
Lee Martin, definitely, because it's coming into the team. Really like Lee, energetic, gives you that thrust going forward. I've liked Archie Collins in the middle of the park, come in, fantastic first season, really for Archie.
Breakthrough season for him.
Absolutely.
Yeah, possession, fantastic. Some of the balls he pings out to the wings, absolutely, really, really good.
And he plays the ball forward, doesn't he? That's what I love about him.
He does.
He's not across the line. He's head up, and let's get us going. That's what he tries to do.
He's positive, and I'm really interested to see how Randall Williams copes next season. I've got high expectations for him. Just little glimpses I've seen.
Yeah.
I think next season's going to be his real breakthrough season here, so really looking forward to seeing that.
And Pat, who's caught your eye?
I'd second that with Archie Collins. I've really, from the first time I saw him play, I said up in commentary that I think he'll play at a high level. I think he's that good. He won't be here very long if he carries on playing the way he does. He plays with such an assurance at such a young age, and you can tell from how many times he touches the ball whether older pros keep giving him the ball, and they do. And you can always tell that he's got a lot of respect in. Yeah, absolute trust. It's a great word. If you trust a player, that doesn't matter how old they are, then that's a good sign. For me, it's a shame that you only had him on loan. Was Dara O'Shea. I was really, really impressed with him throughout the season. solid defender.
Central Defenders Union.
It must be. It must be. No, I just think that he just looks the part. He's quick, wins everything in the air, reads the game superbly well as well. I think he's got a bright future. I don't know what his plans are for next year, but he would be a good signing if you're able to get him back in again.
Just a quick one on Archie Kirky. Does he shoot enough? He's got more goals in him, and he's got quality. We saw that at Swindon.
Yeah, it depends. I mean, normally he's been playing in front of the back four, hasn't he? So he's not really got that licence to go forward. And when you do push him forward, I think he has got a bit of a swaz on him. So I can't remember. I think he might have just got the one this year, isn't he? Away. Bamo, I know he's the stato now. It's just the one goal, Bamo, is it, that Archie's got? Yeah. So I think he's got it in his locker, but he's so tidy in possession, isn't it? The way he turns and recycles it. So I think he has got goals in his locker, but it depends on where he plays. What about you? Who are you going to go for?
Well, I think Christie's had a great season. I think he's really come on this season. He's kept us in a lot of games, made some really crucial saves. Yeah. So I think Chris Wheel's been good for him. I think that change for Christie has probably kicked him on a little bit this season, and he's looked really assured. I think his kicking's improved. He's certainly a lot more vocal than he used to be as well, which I think is so important for a goalkeeper. You think of all the years we've had goalkeepers here, like Jonah. He never talked, did he? I mean, it must be so frustrating for a defender to have a goalie.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, unfortunately for Christie, when he first came in the side, he had me and Colsey in front of him. So he was never going to be very vocal, because we'd be vocal back. But he's certainly. I would double that. I think Christie has had a fantastic season. I think his level of consistency over the last couple of seasons has been very high, and I think that's why we're going to see him unfortunately move on to pastures new, to a bigger club, unfortunately for us or for you guys, but he's been
You can say us.
You can say us.
I'll get a bit weird.
Who is us for you then?
West Ham.
Just going back to what Pat said about Dara, I think you're absolutely right, and he's been fat. He's like he's in the Matt Taylor mould, isn't he? That no nonsense
defender.
Doesn't let it bounce,
does he?
Doesn't let it bounce. Attacks the ball,
clear it,
and that's what Matt wants. And I think that's one of Matt's key priorities in the summer, is to get that no nonsense centre half. Because you've got Dean Moxey, who's more of a ball playing centre half, but Dara gives you that.
And I think he absolutely does, and it's becoming more and more rare from all the games that I'm watching, that players are, they're very technically very gifted, but you're lacking something, whether it is aggression or that old school defending, which you still need, especially in England. I think you do still need that.
Matt was saying, wasn't he, that not many academies these days produce players like Dara.
No, absolutely not, and that's naturally in them. But don't get me wrong, he has that technical ability to go alongside it, and the athleticism as well to go alongside it. So I think the kid's got a bright future.
Some games you just need to be a bit more agricultural, don't you?
Put your foot through it.
Yeah.
Send it.
You want get rid.
You want Taylor and Taylor, don't you?
Right, we've got a few moments left. Let's concentrate, or perhaps look ahead to next season. Matt's been busy already. We've had the retained list, and we know a couple of players that are going already. Luke Kroll and James Hammond. No surprises there. Kirky, really?
No, not really. I think I thought what Matt said in his statement about Hammy, that he hadn't really done enough as a number two when he's come in. And you look at the Macclesfield game, not just Hammy's fault, but I think with Hammy as well, you look at too much of a risk taker. I think coming for crosses when perhaps he should have stayed, and then not really any surprise. And Luke Kroll, I think we're talking about Dara. I think with away at Yeovil when the ball's bouncing around a couple of times, great guy Luke, but I think not really a Matt Taylor type of player, just in terms of just get it as far away as you can, so no surprise.
It's unusual in a way. I was surprised how many players are still under contract for next season, which is brilliant.
Totally agree with you.
That gives us a real foundation, doesn't it, for next season?
Totally agree.
And Barge, perhaps Hiram and Christie are the ones that are a little bit of a doubt at the moment, and maybe Troy. I think Troy's been offered a contract, but we're not sure if he's signed it or not yet.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, hope that they all sign, but looks like it's probably at best going to be one out of three of those that is going to sign with Troy Brown, who's a massive player for us. Personally, I'll be really, really sad to see Hiram go, because I think there's a real player in there. If he can add consistency to his game, I think I get excited when he gets on the ball, commentating and that, and you see him and he turns his man and runs at the defence, and that. I just think, as a football fan, you get excited by seeing players doing that, and he's just got the physique and pace, and I think he's clearly got an eye for goal, as we've seen a few of those over the years that he's been with us. But I hope he stays. But there's going to be one or two changes, but I think we trust Matt Taylor now because he recruited well last summer. He's got the whole summer to do it, and clearly he's been thinking about it already. I think we put our trust in the manager that he's going to get the quality in that he wants at the club.
That goal Boateng scored, goal of the season, Baldwin-esque, wasn't it?
Absolutely, brilliant.
You ever got one like that, Pat?
Of course I have. Of course not.
Only in FIFA.
Never played it, to be fair, Barge.
So if it was your team, Pat, and it was your summer, where would you want to strengthen this squad?
I think you're quite bare on the bones all over, really, aren't you? You need to be strengthening quite a bit. You've made quite a few loan signings. I think you're going to have to dabble into that market just for pure finances wise, but certainly you need a goal scorer. You need a striker who's going to give you goals. You need a keeper. I mean, I would go whenever you look for a keeper with experience, because it's such a vital position in your team. You need a centre half or two. Now that Kroll's gone, Troy Brown might not be signing, so there's a lot of recruitment to be done over the summer. But like Bargy said, I think Matt Taylor has earned that trust from the fans to just, we trust him to go with it. But recruitment is going to be vital over the summer.
Let me put it another way for you, Kirky. Take goalkeeper out, because we know we need probably one or two goalkeepers. If you could just strengthen in one position, where would that be?
Just one position?
One position.
That's a bit mean. I'm going to go right back. I think we've not really got much cover at right back, I don't think. So I'm still not convinced Pearce is a conventional right back, so I'm going to go there.
Okay, Bamo?
A goal scorer.
Goal scorer.
Desperately need a goal scorer next season, yeah.
Bargy?
I would go goal scorer as well, definitely. I've already said I think that we were probably a striker short this season anyway. So yeah, I'll go goal scorer. Easy to find, aren't they?
Yeah, that's the trouble at this level, isn't it? You find one, they don't stay around too
And I
long,
hope Partridge gets a good run as well at left back this season. He's impressed me when he's come in.
I mean, it's often been said, we're so out on a limb down here to attract players, Pat. Does that come into your thinking when you sign for Exeter City, or is it a last resort, or how's it?
No, I don't think it's a last resort. It's an amazing part of the world. I think you're going to attract older pros, that are coming to the later stages of the career. It's an attractive place to come. I think what makes it really attractive, with the reputation that this club has in nurturing and bringing players on. So you might have agents out there that know of that, recommend their players that, if you go to Exeter, you will get good coaching, you will be looked after down there. It's a stable club, run through it by some decent people. The fans are great. So I think there's a lot to attract players down here. And I think the loan market as well, I think that's one way of, you'll see, and I don't think you should panic too much if you haven't signed any permanent players, too many in the summer, because you will be signing a lot of loan players. And other bigger clubs have that trust with Exeter, that they'll be looked after. They're said down here, you play the right way, the way that the bigger clubs are trying to teach those kids. So I think it's a really attractive proposition for all sorts of players.
I think that's a great point, Pat. The Exeter's track record in developing young players that come in on loan is fantastic. You look at Dara, you look at Kane's done well again, hasn't he, coming back here, and last season.
And Carl's starting as well for West Brom as well.
Yeah.
And the lad from Brentford's getting
I think
games.
the more the word gets out that you send your player to Exeter, they're going to get developed, they're going to get game time under a good manager, they play a good brand of football. I think the loan market's going to be essential to bolster the squad next season.
And for young pros who are decent, may have been released from a bigger club. If you look at the track record of this football club of developing players who have gone on and sold through the youth team, it's got to be up there with one of the best academies in the country. I'm talking sort of like Crew level. Over the years, Crew Alexander was always up there with developing young players. I think Exeter has that from speaking to all sorts of people, scouts, coaches all over the country. Exeter has that reputation.
Just looking ahead really quickly to pre-season, we've announced, I think there's 7 pre-season friendlies all away again, and all against really non-league opposition. As a player, Pat, do you want to be playing non-league in pre-season, or do you want to be testing yourself against the same level or above?
I used to enjoy having a mixture, to be honest. Playing a higher level, you can test yourself absolutely nearer the start of the season, but I think from the point of view of Matt Taylor, I think maybe possibly looking at getting them realistically prepared for League 2 football. It's a tough old league to get out of, and to get that mentality, if you're playing against non-league players, non-league clubs, it's a great test for the players' mentality, and I think that will set them up for League Two. The grind that League Two is, you need to have that very strong mentality because you want to get out of the league.
Well, finally, Bamo finished 9th this season, goal away from the playoffs. What's your hopes and aspirations for next season?
Well, we all go in, don't we, at the start of the season, and we all hope for promotion, don't we? But I'm really optimistic ahead of next season. I think Matt's had a really good, solid start to his managerial career. It's a great platform to build on next season. He sounds like he's got his targets in mind. He wants to bring 5 or 6 permanent signings in over the summer. And we'll go in optimistic, won't we? Automatic, if not playoffs. But I certainly see Exeter being in and around that area next season.
And we lost the special game from this season, MK Dons, but of course we got another special couple of games next season, Barge.
Absolutely,
Salford.
Yeah. Indeed, yeah, Devon Derby. Yeah, that was a shame, wasn't it?
Yeah.
No, I mean, they're always great occasions, aren't they? And luckily we've had a few special ones down here as well at the park over the last few years as well. So, good to have our friends from down the A38 back in the league with us, and hopefully we can take 6 points off them next season.
And a quick thought from you, Kirky, looking ahead?
Yeah, massively excited. I think the
Foundations there still.
Foundations are there. We've got the senior pros that we've got some quality. We've kept some quality, haven't we? So League Two, I don't think has been a particularly strong league this year, and I can't see it being much different next year. So autos and third.
Brilliant. Well, thank you, Pat. Thank you, Bama.
Pleasure.
Thank you, Barge. Thank you, Kirky. That's our end of season round the table review. Bring on next year. As always, Kirky, some very reasoned debate there, and some balance brought by Pat having a player's viewpoint.
Yeah, I wasn't very happy that he sat next to me. Actually, I was breathing in the whole time. Football's no other dress run. I still fit.
Still fit.
Yeah, always good. So what do you like in goal? You any good in goal?
Yeah, well, I'm desperately searching through the garage for my old goalkeeping gloves.
Your Sondico specials.
There might be a vacancy there, mightn't there? But big loss as well, Chris Will going, isn't it?
Yeah, I kind of hadn't really seen that one coming. I think we expected to lose, probably Christian Hammy, but not Chris Will. So that's probably Matt's biggest job over the summer, isn't it? Sort of reconstituting the whole goalkeeping department with Felix going as well. So big job for Matty.
And I guess if there is a positive side to not actually making the playoffs, we've been there for the last few years. It actually, not just the playing side, but it gives the whole club a proper summer and a real breather, doesn't it? And a chance to recharge properly, ready to kick on next year.
And take stock. You're absolutely right, because the back office boys, I know of course they wanted to be in the playoffs, but it's been like non-stop for about 3 years. And I think, if I'm honest, I think a lot of the fans actually, we're all gutted and we all wanted to do it, but the fans need a break as well. We'll come back invigorating. Season ticket sales are going well. I think Matt has really kept fans on board, and I think what the fans love about Matt is his honesty in the interview. So overall, good season.
Yeah, and I think Bargy made a brilliant point, which you just touched on. Actually, Matt's brought the club back together, hasn't he? Because we weren't in a bad way, but it just felt for a while here towards the end of Tiz's reign that things weren't as they should be, and that feeling's gone now.
Yeah.
Everyone's pulling in the right direction again, and as we mentioned, looking at the retain list, that there's a solid foundation for Matt to build on, isn't there?
Well, you've got pretty much the spine of your team, haven't you? Okay, maybe a goalkeeper, but apart from that, you've got your centre forwards, you've got your centre midfielders. The back line looks pretty strong, so a lot to work with. But you're right. I mean, it's a bit like Brexit, isn't it? You're either in or you're out. There's no grey areas, and so we've gone past the point of no return, which had to be resolved one way or the other.
Well, overall, enjoy the season.
I've loved it actually. There's been a few lows like we touched on, but some really good highs as well. And I think when we stand together and we watch the game together, seeing that big bank in full flow, we've seen the opening of the Adam Stansfield stand.
Yeah.
That's been massive. The ground's been totally redeveloped. So seen some great goals this year, some unbelievable ones. Obviously Hiram's won the goal of the season, but I think the top 10 or 11 that the team put together, we haven't mentioned Matt J. He's had a bit of an impact this season. Been a breakthrough season for him as well. So
got some
really,
goals.
exactly, really good memories.
And actually, I didn't pick Bargy up on it in around the table, but he said the Grimsby games was one of his low points, but I loved that game.
Well, when we absolutely battered
I
them.
absolutely loved that game. I've never seen an attacking performance like it. 30 odd shots.
Oh,
they were hitting the bar, hitting the post. Worldy, the keeper had a worldy that day.
Yeah, one of those days.
Result aside, I really enjoyed that match. It's a type of football that we haven't seen here for a long time.
You're absolutely right. Really went for it. It was just a freak, wasn't it?
So bring on next season. We wish that the playing staff and all those involved with the football club a really great summer, and let's bring on pre-season, eh?
Bring it on.
See you in Jersey.
Rob Edwards, with just his second goal of the season, gives Exeter the lead.